Welcome back to WDRC in Santo Domingo. Today we're going to talk about racism, colorism, and classism in the Dominican Republic. Now, one of the main reasons I like living in this country is because people look like me. This is a brown-skinned country. Really have no problem walking around, uncomfortable walking anywhere, any part of this country. It's a brown-skinned country. But sometimes looking Dominican can be an issue here. And that's the subject of the conversation today. First, racism. Do I believe racism is current here in the Dominican Republic? No. Why? Because Dominicans are not a race of people. They're a nationality. They're beautiful people. They're proud. They're patriotic, but not a race. They're a nationality. Now, the other thing is colorism. Colorism, yes, colorism is prevalent here. Why? Because it's in the culture. When you walk down the street, if a Dominican doesn't know you or trying to get your attention, they're going to say, hey, a Moreno, brown-skinned person, a Negro, dark-skinned person, a Rubia, light-skinned, basically a white person. So it's not meant in a negative way, not a negative comment. It's just their way of describing. Same thing as if they're trying to get your attention and you're fat. They'll say, hey, gordito. It's just a part of their culture. Now, colorism, yes. As I said, colorism is here. Now, sometimes it is meant in a negative way. And I'm going to talk about this incident that happened to me yet. A couple other things happened too, but this is the most recent one, and this is the one I want to talk about. As some friends came to visit the vacation in Punta Cana at the Hard Rock Casino. They sent me an email, called me and said, hey, we're coming to the Dominican Republic, come see us. Like, okay. Now, they thought it'd be easy because, everybody thinks that the DR is Punta Cana. No, Punta Cana is a part of DR. It's the suburbs of DR. Come here. Give you a little insight. Punta Cana is not the real DR. It's not a reflection of the true Dominican experience.
What did you say?
Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of people saying, hey, you're just hating or whatever. I live in the DR. I'm Dominican. It's the DR. You can't tell me I'm not real. No, I'm not saying you're not real, that your experience is not a true experience, but it's not a reflection of the real Dominican Republic. Talk to a Dominican. I'm not talking about a rich Dominican or a very poor Dominican. Talk to an average Dominican, and they would tell you that Punta Cana is for foreigners, for rich people, for investments, but it's not a reflection of the real Dominican Republic. And if you ever lived in the other parts of the Dominican Republic and traveled and spent some time in Punta Cana, you will see the difference. So anyway, I booked an Airbnb inside the Hard Rock compound, if you want to call it that, because I wasn't staying on the resort. And I've stayed at these condos before. There's different projects, kind of Bay, kind of Rock, kind of Pearl, kind of whatever. But a nice place to stay if you're not going to stay on the resort, because Hard Rock, you can, because they have a casino, you can go in. You don't have to have a reservation at the casino to get in. Now, you're not going to get on the resort, but you can go to the casino and they have a couple of restaurants. So I left Santo Domingo, got to Punta Cana, grabbed a taxi. When you first come into the Hard Rock compound, as you know, you see the big guitar sign and Hard Rock, and that's your first security you go through. So you go through, and I mean, it's tight security. You got to show your ID, show your reservations, your Airbnb reservations. It took like 2 people to verify, blah, blah, blah. They looked me up and down and said, okay. So I go to my condo, my Airbnb, call my friend and say, hey, in 10 minutes, I'll be there, because the place I booked is only like a 7-minute walk. So I told him, meet me in the lobby in 10 minutes. Drop my bags, check to make sure everything was working. That's another thing. Even though it's Punta Cana, things still go wrong in this country. I had booked an Airbnb a few months before, and there was no power. And so I talked to, the owner, hey, what's going on here? So things do go wrong, and thank you, Airbnb, for helping me get my money back. So I dropped my bag. I'm walking down the street, and as I said, this Punta Cana is like the suburbs. So there's no sidewalk. So I'm walking on the edge of the road, to make sure I don't get hit. And I noticed a security guy passes me. I looked at him. But then I noticed he looped back around and he came to me and said, hey, come here. He was on the other side of the road. And my Spanish isn't great, but I understood what he said, because he said in Spanish, ven acá, meaning, come here. And I'm like, what? And then he's like, where are you going? Because I just kept walking, like, man. And so he's like, come here. And I just stopped, and I told him in English, hey, I'm going to the Hard Rock Casino. It's on, you can hit it with a rock if you had a good arm. I'm that close now. I said, I'm going to visit some friends. If you want to follow me. But it's too hot out here to be asking these stupid questions. So he heard my English, and he kind of gave me a little smirk, and he went in and took off. So I went in, forgot about it because I had a great, weekend with my friends. But I had to step back and go, wow, wait a minute, did that really just happen? So I talked to some friends, and I talked to some family members too. And I told them, give me your opinion of what happened. And everyone said, hey, the guy was just doing his job. And when someone tells me, hey, they were just doing their job, this is what I think of.
Calling it your job don't make it right, boss.
So to me, no, you're overstepping your boundaries of your job. So how many times have things happened when people say, hey, they were just doing their job? No, if I was looking through windows, or I was looking suspicious, or walking around, I can understand him stopping me and questioning me. But it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm just walking. And this was really made it hit home was the next question I asked my friends and family: if I was white, would he had stopped me? And everyone said the same thing. No, if you were white, you probably would not have been stopped. Whoa, wait a minute. Why would a Dominican not stop a white person? Everyone said because he would have thought, oh, you must be a tourist. I'm like, wow, so white equals tourist, brown-skinned person equals what? No, somebody shouldn't be there. Also, I guess the way I was dressed, this is how I was dressed that day. So I don't know what was suspicious about, looking Dominican. I asked some of my Dominican friends, they like, yeah, you kind of look like a little tigre. That's, a little hustler, street person. So that brings in like colorism and the classism too, because, this guy, once again, I'm not in his head, but if I was driving, no, I wouldn't have been stopped because I would have been driving. But also in his mind was like, okay, this person doesn't have a car, so he doesn't have money. Look at the way he's dressed and he's walking. So what is he doing here? So this is my job. Let me question this guy. And this is Dominican. This Dominican was darker than I am. So once again, colorism is here. Another reason I also say classism. Classism is here also. Another incident. I have a friend who lives in Naco. Now, this is in Santo Domingo, a very high-end place. Everyone says Naco, Piatini, those are the places to live. So I have a friend that lives there, and a new plaza opened up with some cool restaurants and cafes and ice cream places. So I went over to meet him. We had a late lunch. While we were eating, I noticed coming down the stairs was a morena, brown-skinned woman with a white Dominican, or maybe he was Spanish, but because the guy looked like he could have stepped off a novella video, slick back hair. But I was like, oh, wow, cool couple. She had a baby in her arm. But when they came around, I noticed, oh, that's a uniform she has on. She's the nanny, because she sits in the back with the baby, and they had a driver, and they went on and took off. A few minutes later, another family comes down. This is a man and a wife, and this time it's an older morena, brown-skinned woman holding the hand of 2 white children. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought I had a flashback to The Help, or those 1950, 60 TV shows where all the help was black, or in this word, morena. Then another couple came down, once again, with a brown-skinned woman holding the hand of a white child, Dominican child or Spanish, but they were definitely white. So once again, classism is very prevalent here, because you can see that those jobs, most of those jobs you will see as maids, housekeepers, are going to be morenas. So is it 100%? Nothing's 100%, but the majority of the time I see a maid or someone doing custodial work, it's going to be a brown-skinned person. And classism, as I said, when you go to these higher-end places in Piatini, Naco, or wherever you're going to go, the majority of those people there are going to be Rubia. You know, all these people are not Dominican. There's a lot of Colombians, Venezuelans here, Spanish people here, but in those places you're going to see more lighter skinned, white looking clientele. But I'm not trying to deter you. I'm not trying to deter you, but it's just something to look out for when you're here. Is this place a utopia? No, far from it. Is it paradise? Well, paradise is what you make it. And you can come here and have a great time. I've been here a few years and I love it. As I said, people look like me. But I also know when incidents, as I just described, happen, I know that there's classism, colorism here, and that's based on colonialism. And that's just the way it is. I'm not going to try to get in a good debate, but if you disagree with me, let's have a dialogue. Send me a comment and we'll follow up. You know, I'll come interview you. I'll come to you and you can give me your point of view or the history of your experience here.